All right, Chris, do you want to move on to running back one, RB1?
Yeah, that's fine.
All right, so Cam Wallace is back. We did not know that before today. So Cam Wallace is back, and it's loaded now. So Chris wanted to bring up this point before Wallace came back. So now that he is back, we got a lot of guys.
Well, no, I just think this is a fun conversation because, like, they do running back by committee. Last year, Iowa State, they ran Carson Hansen and they ran Abu Sama. Sama went to Wisconsin. We got Hansen. Hansen's probably the better of the two. So, you got right. I think you never want to say it's definite because you're always going to hear there's an open competition. But coming from Iowa State, Hansen's a really good running back. He's a veteran. You know what you're getting. And he's a good, solid back. So I would think he's probably going to be one of your top backs. So after Hansen, you now have – yeah, go ahead. You now have Cam Wallace, Quentin Martin, James Peoples, and Tiki Hayes. They're not all going to play and get a lot of carries. So Mark, and Brett, I just brought up was who was going to be the number two back. If Hansen's number one or 1A, one of the top backs, and you're going to have two backs kind of like they did with Sama and Hansen, and we did with Katron and Nick, well, until a smarter coach decided Katron should run more. Who's going to be that number two back that gets the other, all the other carries with Hansen? Is it going to be Martin? Is it going to be Peoples? Is it going to be Wallace? Who's it going to be? So just an interesting conversation. You guys in the chat, you could put who do you think besides Hansen between Wallace, Martin, Peoples, Tiki Hayes? Who will lead who between the four of them? Who will get the most carries? Who will be that RB2 guy behind Hansen? That's all I really have to say. To me personally, I think they're all very close. They might have like some different styles and bring different things to the table, but Wallace is explosive. He's compact and he's explosive. Like I remember watching Wallace's tape. He looked like a little KJ Hamler out there. So Wallace might be the most explosive of the bunch. James Peoples kind of gives you a little bit of everything. Good moves. He could, decent. Not a huge burner, but he probably is like a mid 4.4, 4.5 guy. Tiki Hayes, I haven't seen enough of. And I think Martin is just similar to Peoples. I think a little bit of everything. I would lean Martin, to be honest with you, because Martin's got nice moves. Martin, I like running backs that are elusive and can hit the home run. And I think Martin could probably do that. Cam Wallace could do that too.
Yeah.
Cam Wallace isn't as shifty. He's more like, one cut, boom, go. But he's explosive.
Yeah, the thing for me about it is I like Quentin Martin, but we don't really know what he's going to do because he hasn't really played a lot because our previous coach is the previous coach combined with the fact that he hasn't really been healthy this year and stuff like that. We don't know what he's going to do, but I think he can be very good. But yeah, we have Peoples, we have Martin, we have Hansen, and then we have Cam now. So yeah, we could literally have a four head backfield. Literally, we could have four guys, four bodies that we can run. So yeah, we'll see. I like Peoples. One thing that stands out to me with Peoples, comparing him to Nick Singleton, for example, he seems to have vision. And
he does. He has very good vision.
He can move pretty good. So that's one thing that I like about it is he seems to be able to move pretty good. He seems to have vision. He has hops. Singleton didn't really have hops. He was just north and south quick. Did not have vision. So it would have helped that he had better coaching. But yeah, so we'll see. Hansen is 6'2", 200 or something? 6'2", 220 or something like that? He's
a little over 2. No, he's probably around 220, I think. He's a big boy. But he can move. He's pretty, he's not a blazer, but he's probably like a 4.5 guy, I'd imagine.
Yeah, yeah. When Drink was in the running for the head coaching job, their running back, I can't remember his name, but I was watching his
Ahmad Hardy.
Yeah, I was like, oh my gosh,
He's
he's so
good,
good.
man. He's really good. I remember watching the game. I don't know if it was against A&M where he was playing. He bounced him to the outside, and he was explosive. And I don't, some guys are saying he's only like a mid 4.5 guy, but man, he was pretty damn explosive for a bigger back. He's really good. And what's funny is Missouri had Keywan Lacey the year before, so they lost Keywan Lacey, and then and this Ahmad Hardy was some low level guy they got from some smaller school. And just, they replaced them.
Yeah, the running back room is interesting, and we just don't really know exactly how it's going to play out. But it is very interesting because, again, we have bodies now, so it's just one of those things where, who's it going to be? I agree with you. I think it's going to be Hansen is going to be the running back one. I'm just playing some of his highlights here. But yeah, he can move, man. Highlights. Dude, like Brandon Jacobs, for example, he was a 6'4" running back. That's insane. And he was good. He was pretty quick. He was more of a bruiser, but he was pretty quick. But Hansen, dude, he can move. Holy shit! Like he's 6'2", man.
Mm-hmm.
Believe it or not, when you're taller as a running back, it makes it a little harder to me. But he can move. Like, man.
The taller you are, you can't cut as easy because of inertia. Yeah. The taller you are when you're planting and trying to cut, you're more top heavy, so it's not as easy to cut.
He's quick.
Yeah, he's
got vision.
That's what I'm saying. They all got pretty good vision. I think he's going to be, like I said, I think he'll probably be one of your top running backs. Now, are they gonna play mainly just two running backs like they did last year, or are they going to play three running? I'm just saying, who's going to get the bulk of the carries? Is it going to be split up where Hansen gets 12 and then another guy gets 11 a game, 13 a game, 11? Or is it going to be like 8, and 8, where they play three guys, something like that?
Yeah, I do think, honestly, that and again, it's a new coach, new method, new approach, but I think they're going to do the opposite of what Franklin did. Franklin was just playing guys because of stupid, idiotic reasons. So I think they're going to play everybody. Like whoever can execute the plays in a game, they can use fresh legs like the whole game. Really, like I think
they could.
Do it, so.
But running backs like to get in a rhythm. It's not like rotating defensive linemen. Like when you say play everybody, that would be like 5 running backs. So you have Hansen, Martin, Wallace, Peoples, and Tiki Hayes. Tiki Hayes is going to end up being as good as any of them. Supposedly he looked great as a freshman in practice. So I don't think you're going to see 4 or 5 guys getting, just a few carries a game. That's what I'm saying. It'll be 2, maybe 3 guys. So it'll be interesting to see who. Now you're seeing him running. You should put James Peoples' highlights up real quick and compare the two.
But yeah, Chris, we'll get a segment here at some point of you. You like to do player evaluation, so you can definitely do that. And you're good at it. I mean, that's what you do. So
yeah, like you get the all 22 tape now too.
Yeah, Aaron has. So we're going to be doing a recruiting segment. It's going to be at least Joe Quirch. His dad, Carlos, played for Penn State. He played for Joe. Aaron Zimmerman, and then we can throw you in there too if you want to do it.
Sure.
But yeah, we're going to do a recruiting segment. Like that's not, that's not my thing. Like I follow recruiting, but I'm not it. Like Brett is like, Brett. That's Brett's thing. Like, and just your thing, and one thing.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Oh, I was going to say with Nick Singleton, it's still funny because like when he, and I know I said this story, but and this is where people just love all the positive stuff, and they don't like, I'm always the asshole that brings up the tough questions and asks the tough stuff. But like when we got Nick Singleton, we almost lost him to Notre Dame. He was this close to going to Notre Dame. And everybody was jumping through the fucking roof that we got Nick Singleton. And I'm watching this guy's tape. And I'm this infamous guy that said, I use the word jump cut. So people still like, bust my balls about jump cut. I said, I'm watching Nick Singleton's high school tape, and I've seen a lot of running backs. And everything was this like they ran these like quarterback, halfback dive plays with the quarterback where he would do this deep pitch out, and Nick Singleton's just out running everybody around the edge. And then if he's running up the middle, it's just lower your head and get what you could get. And I'm like, where's this guy's moves? Where's this? I said, he's not making anybody miss. I said, this is just a foot race where he's making people miss, where he's not making anybody miss. He's just out running guys. I said, he doesn't have a jump cut. And meaning he just doesn't have moves, and he doesn't have jukes. Like in the old days, you called it a juke. He doesn't have it. He didn't have any jukes. And then I realized he also doesn't have any vision. You don't have to be super jukey. You just vision and just basic cuts. And I brought this up his true freshman year. Well, actually, when we first signed him, and people jumped down my throat about it. Now people are saying like, "Wow, geez, how'd you know that?" Well, set of eyeballs,
Yeah, well, just like now you're saying about Campbell, like, like I said on the phone, 6 months from now, we could be like, Chris been saying this for 6 months now, that they're not getting the people that they should be getting. So we'll see. But
I hope I'm wrong about him, but and I'm sure he's a good X's and O's coach. So the thing is, like I said, we'll see what he does with the 27 recruiting class. If he takes the same approach to the 27 recruiting class where he bargain shops, then you're gonna know that's what his MO is.
Yeah, we're gonna be. Now, I think, even if Franklin goes out and gets like every 5-star on the board, I think we'll still do better. Like we're gonna have more success long term.
Franklin ain't getting any 5 stars at Virginia Tech.
He's not getting anybody at Virginia Tech. Like the reason he was hired is because he can supposedly get all this talent, and they're gonna, but he's not. Like he's not getting really. He's getting like some of our.
The best talent he's going to have is the guys he's bringing over that he stole from the 26 class. That's going to be his best talent. Could the guy recruit? Could he recruit? Well, yeah, he's a good recruiter, but he's too. In his press conference introductory, he said the same thing. He's still not going to go big with NIL. Supposedly Virginia Tech has decent NIL, and they gave him some money to work with. He said, "I'm not going to lead with money. I still think you could win the old-fashioned way." Which is code for I'm not going to pay players. It's that simple. He'll sell, being in Virginia and having the recruiting connections he has, he'll land a stud, like, a top level guy here or there once in a while. But it's Virginia Tech. It's not Penn State. And with NIL, all the top Virginia guys are probably, most of them are going to be looking for a bag. And he's unwilling to give it to them.
Yeah, he's not paying anybody. Like, I don't know what these Virginia Tech fans think. They're like, yeah, he's going to do so good here. Like, there was this post last night. They said, our head coach was in this round last year, and then we got him. We're so lucky. It's like, man, you guys are clueless. Oh, my God. But, Chris, we can move on to linebacker your theory, because we have not been linebacker U for
So
since what?
I was just like, when you brought it up, I'm thinking of the old days, like, and again, most of my football days come from the 90s and to that, like, remember an old school Joe Paterno teams. And I think the reason why you don't see it as much is because back in the old days, like when I say old days, I'm just talking 90s. That's not old days to me. But Paterno played a standard 4-3. Today, it's a 4-2 with the hybrid guy. So with the 4-2, you just have 2 box linebackers, and then you have that hybrid guy that's usually whatever on the fringe. He's not in the box usually. He's on the fringe of the box. When you had a 4-3, that's more. You had 3 guys right behind the line of scrimmage, or 1 guy near the end of the line of scrimmage. It was 3 guys to cover, so you covered less ground. Like in a 4-2. The reason you have to get such athletic linebackers today and speedy guys like a Rojas, because they have to cover more ground. And when you played a 4-3, when they didn't have these spread offenses and things were bunched up more and a lot of runs between the tackles, there's times I'd look at Penn State line, it'd be 1, 2, 3, right behind the defensive line, 1, 2, 3, middle linebacker, the 2 outside guys right there.
Yeah.
3 guys could cover gaps more than 2 guys could. And when you're just jamming the ball in between the tackles, you could get away with being a less athletic linebacker back then and just being a good instinctual football player. And the best examples of that are like Paul Posluszny, Sean Lee, Dan Connor. Like Posluszny and Lee weren't super athletic, but they just did such a great job at reading and reacting. Like Puz would, yes. Like when you think of linebacker, I think more of Posluszny than I do like LeVar Arrington, even though LeVar was great. Posluszny, you read it, you shoot the gap. Boom. You read it, you shoot the gap. He was like when we talk about execution with Indiana, that's what they did. But I think having 3-box linebackers, less of a spread offense, and less ground to cover, I think it made it easier to be a very good linebacker. You didn't have to be as athletic. You didn't have to run. They didn't have to run sideline to sideline as much. It was just between the tackles, you shoot your gap. Obviously, there's some outside run plays, and you have to chase guys down. But there's a lot of games I would watch, not just with Penn State, but in general. And, there's defensive coaches out there that think that, like, every gap should be accounted for. But there's times I would watch, like, Kobe King. The other linebacker would be, say, off to, like, one side a little bit, and there would be a run coming right at Kobe King. And I would see the running back would have 2 gaps he could pick through. And I would sit there watching, like, and I'm just using Kobe King as an example. It's a lot. I'd watch Kobe King, and I'm like, he has 2 gaps. Where's the other, and the other linebacker wasn't out of position. He just might have had a gap that was a little further down the line. Maybe the safety didn't come up in time. Maybe the safety was playing deep. And I'm just watching like a guy like a Kobe King having to cover 2 gaps. Back in the old days, it wasn't as hard because you had 3 linebackers to cover all those gaps. And you just run fit and you shot your gaps. You had good instincts. It was read and react. It was easier to be a good linebacker because you had less ground to cover. You didn't have to be as athletic, and you had more help. You had more help. You had another linebacker right there with you. Imagine 2 Kobe Kings with a Tony Rojas or a Curtis Jacob. Imagine 3 Kobe Kings right behind the line of scrimmage. Teams are going to have a hard time running the ball, as opposed to 1 Kobe King, a little speedy guy flying around out of position half the time, and a hybrid guy. But that's the only point I wanted to make when you brought up linebacker. I'm sitting there thinking like some of the older guys of like what made it linebacker you. The difference was it was just execution and less ground to cover.
Well, Mike Motti, he had instincts. That's what and Mike Motti wasn't like this overly athletic guy. Like he was athletic, but he wasn't like
right.
Navarro Bowman.
He had good instincts. And the guy just mentioned Shane Conlon, and Shane Conlon is linebacker. You absolutely. I don't know. It was the last comment. I don't know the gentleman that put it up. And I remember Shane Conlon a little bit. Now that's like I said, I was young then. Late 80s is kind of like where I remember. Shane Conlon was from what I remember, and the gentleman that put it up he could comment better than I could on Conlon. He was in the similar build of a Posluszny. He wasn't super athletic, but he just did his. He was fundamentally sound. He had gap integrity, and what Shane Conlon did a great job. He was great in coverage. I mean, Shane Conlon, they dropped him in coverage in the '87 national championship, and the guy had a couple interceptions in that intercept. He picked up Testaverde. Trey Bauer was another good one. They had a lot of good, but like the thing I'm trying to say, those guys weren't like freakish athletes. They weren't these freakish athletes. Yeah, right. They're similar, right? But back then, those guys weren't freakish. I'm not saying they're bad athletes, but did they have to cover as much ground sideline to sideline? They were just so fundamentally sound at shooting the gap and just reading and reacting.
Yeah.
But that's the point I wanted to bring up, and I think it's
Yes, he is.
Joe, thank you, Joe. I appreciate that comment. Joe, I have a question for you. On 24/7, there was a guy by the name of Joe K. And the guy asked me, he said, "Are you the Chris on Mark Lesko's podcast?" And I said, "Yeah, sometimes." "Are you the same Joe K as, are you Joe K on 24/7? If you don't want to answer or whatever, that's okay. I was just curious if you're the same guy." But
Yeah, Chris is on the message boards, which is good. Chris is in there. He reads everything. He comments. Dude, dude, they're so toxic in there. Like, you're a guy who knows what they're talking about. You have a bunch of freaking idiots in there just talking crap, it seems. But it's also a great place to get information. Absolutely.
People don't want to hear the negative stuff on the message boards. Oh, okay. Yeah, there's a Joe K. The guy had a name. It went by Joe_K. And I was just wondering, but okay, I know who you are now. But it was a different Joe, I guess.
I wonder who.
I don't know who it was, but somebody's there. It was a joke. The last name was K. I showed you the screenshot of the guy that sent it. But see, a lot of things, those message boards. Like, I'm a guy that could drive somebody crazy because I'm not a sunshine pumper. I'm not a Kool-Aid drinker. I'm gonna call it like I see it. And people just like positivity. Everybody wants positive because it sounds better. And listen, if something's positive, I'll be the first one to say how great it is. I have no problem. I think Rocco Beck is a really good-looking quarterback. That could be a better version of Trace McSorley. I think Chase Sowell is a good-looking receiver. That could be possibly our number one. I think Kobe Howard could be a big-time receiver. I have no problem, but at the same time, when there's like negative things, the things that aren't like going as well as I think they should be, are what we're told they're going to be, I'm going to call it out. And people don't like hearing about it. People don't like hearing the negative. Like Nick Singleton, when I said the guy in high school, I said he could still be a great back. I said he could still be a hell of a player. He's very explosive. He's big. I said, but not being elusive and having moves to make a guy miss is going to hurt him. People jump. Oh my God, did people jump all over me for that? That Dylan Dawson said, "Who the hell's this jackass?" Well, here I am right now.
Did he really? The PSU Dylan?
Dylan's a good dude. I have no issues. I actually support Dylan. I go on his Instagram. Yeah. I send him a message. I support him. I think Dylan's a really good dude. I know he's building a brand. I wish him nothing but the best. But I do remember that. I remember him saying, like, "Who the hell's this guy?" or something like this jackass. I just call it like I see it. Like recruiting profiles. There's strengths and there's strengths and there's areas of concern. Everyone has them.
Yeah, and like my approach right now, like I was always the guy between my previous co-host and Brett. Like, I was totally team Franklin sucks for years. So I was the negative guy. And right now, just Campbell's new. So I'm like, it's not that I'm trying to be positive. I'm just like, let's see how it plays out. Yeah. I am not a positive person. I'm optimistic, but like I'm real. I'm like you, Chris. Like I'm gonna call it how it is. If they need to be paying guys, then they need to be paying guys. Like that's it. Like we'll see how it plays out. But thank you for the membership, Dennis. Evan, what's up, man? Who else? Someone said about my haircut. Thank you for saying that about my haircut. Who was it? Oh, Gregory. Oh, wait, was it Gregory? Yeah, he said, "Mark, that is a Studley Ranger haircut." Thanks, Greg. So
the comedy made before that is like, I'm not sure we have a norm anymore. Now I get things are different now, but I still think that you're still going to see the LSUs, the Bamas, the Georgias, the Ohio States. They're still going out and trying to recruit the best they can.
Chris, the one day they were in the message boards talking about me, I guess, and Chris was like, "Hey, they think that." They think that Bob Chesney's like a lock because of your episode, your thumbnail. And I was like, I told Chris, I'm like, dude, I don't give a flying crap what they're saying. But Chris wanted me to change the thumbnail because it's looked like, so I did. Like, I changed it for Chris. I didn't change it for them. I don't care what they're saying. But I changed it for Chris because, Chris explained it to me. But
Yeah.
like the other night, Chris, Brett met Steve Jones, and he said he's watched our show.
Oh, really? That's cool.
Yeah.
Steve Jones is not. I mean, Steve Jones was Joe's right hand man for years. He was like one of the announcers.
Yep. Him and Fran Fisher is who he preceded.
Yep.
Fran Fisher, man. Like,
I'm telling you, the kitchen. I'm so Jared, the kitchen guy, right? Sounds just like him. You should invite Steve Jones on, and you could, they could imitate it. He sounds just like Steve Jones. So I hope Jared's doing well. He's a good guy.
Yeah, Jared's a good dude. Yeah, he's doing well. He's like, dude, he was like falling all through his kitchen on this episode the other night after that Ravens game. Did you see that?
Yeah.
Man, that was crazy.
Yeah. That was the end of my gambling. I'm done. That crushed me. I'm fucking living on ramen soup after that.
So, one thing about Steve Jones, I always listen to his radio show, but he's on 7 Mountain Sports. I think that's his main podcast, and he always has good content. Steve Jones, man, he's done a ton of work his whole career. I mean, he's a legend. Like, to me, he's not just a good broadcaster for around here. He's one of the best broadcasters of all time in the history of, you put him up there.
I don't know what else he's done. Has he done other things besides cover Penn State?
So he did his radio show. He has a podcast. He's obviously a broadcaster. He was a writer. I believe he was a writer. So yeah, I worked at WPSU for a very short time, and I was right across from him in that office. Like, he was literally, I could reach out and touch his desk. So I think he pretty much does everything, but he always gives you a different perspective in a good way. So, but one thing about him and Corey Gagger always went at it, because Corey Gagger, who to me is another legend, he's different.
Yeah, people seem like not to like that Corey Gagger's. Nobody likes anybody that is brutally honest. They don't. It's the same thing with was it Dave Jones? There's a Dave Jones too they don't like, but whatever. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Like, dude, you want to talk about honesty or whatever, dude. This show, we don't hold back. I mean, we are not other podcasts. That's the thing. Like, even Landon, who also said that he likes our content, which I'm like, wow, like, you actually know about it. But Landon is like PG compared to me. Landon's PG compared to this podcast. You know what I mean? Like, we don't hold back. Now, we try to keep it professional, and we try not to swear too much, but we don't hold back, man. Like, we just say it how it is. And Brett said that to Steve Jones, and Steve Jones, like, that's how a podcast should be. You shouldn't hold back. It's a podcast.
Yeah.
But Chris, we're going to work on, we'll get you on the recruiting segment, and then you can do the player evaluation on the recruiting segment too. So we're going to get you involved in that. Instagram, do you use it enough that we can message you on there, or no? Okay.
Oh, you can. I don't. You can message me, sure. I mean, I don't like put stuff on there, but yeah, if you want to message me, you can.
I'll just make a group text with you, Joe, and Brett.
Yeah, that's fine.
We'll get that going. But did you have anything else, Chris?
Nah, just figure we'd come on tonight, cover some stuff, talk, just what's going on, updates to people, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah, Chris knows who that is.
Who's that?
There's a show that will not be named, but they were Glazers for the previous coach. Yeah, I know who it is.
Well, I mean, I don't want to. I tried to make amends with one guy, and I did, but it's just like there's absolutely some Glazers out there that
it's 3 letters
covered for one coach. No matter what the guy did, he covered for him. Now it's, thank God, he's whatever.
Yeah, Gagger's something else, man. He's a personality, I'll say that. But 3 letters. That's the clue as to who I think Coach Soup is talking about.
Yeah.
And Chris never said a word, so. All right, guys. Have a good night. Thank you for coming on. Yeah, Corey is someone I listen to a ton. Joe Pa, thank you for gifting 5 memberships. I appreciate it. But
Joe's a good dude.
oh yeah, Joe Pa, Joseph Vincent Quirch. He's named after Joe because his father
Wow.
Carlos played for Joe.
Yeah,
So we
that's
got
cool.
Joe Pa, and Joseph Vincent is literally named after Joe Pa. So, but all right, guys, I want to have his dad on, but I know at one point Joe was telling me, he's like, yeah, he said if he can't comes on, like he doesn't want to say anything that he'll regret. That was all stuff when Franklin was, all that stuff was like, oh my god, dude. I'm like, I get it.
I don't give a shit what anybody thinks. Like it's funny because like on these message boards, like I don't go by the name Chris or Gorky or whatever. I just I pick up a handle. I'm a mob guy. I like mob history. I always have. So I'll put the name like Tony Bender or Tony Ducks. And when I say something somebody doesn't like, they'll say, "Oh, okay, whatever, Gorky." And they think if they say my name, they're like putting me on the spot. I said, "But I don't give a fuck. I don't like." Yes, I said, you think you say my name as like you think I give a shit? People know who I am. I don't care what these people think, especially when they show their hand of how stupid some of them are.
Oh, dude, there's
Like
so
it's
many
just
dumb people that comment on our stuff. Like, not on YouTube, like Instagram, TikTok. Like, holy crap, dude! I'm like, how are you? Your brain doesn't work. Seriously.
Yeah, I don't give a shit.
But yeah, Chris. Now that you say that, on Netflix, that one show that they just brought out, the Mob Wars, Joey Merlino, there in Philly, dude. Joey Merlino, like he seems like he seems like a good dude. Like mobsters, you think like, oh, they're this, they're that, but he seems like a good dude. I mean, like, I don't know. Do you know? We probably shouldn't get into it, but
I met Joey. I know Joey. I don't know him well, and I shouldn't say I know him. I met him. I seen him. Yeah, I gotta be careful what not because I'm worried about anything. Listen, so what? Like one of my closest friends is he has like the best mob podcast out there. Anybody, I know we're switching gears. I'm not gonna go on. Anybody that's interested in mob history, go. There's a guy, Mob Talk Radio Show with Jeff Canarsie. I've been good friends with this guy for several years. He's a good dude. He comes from had a family that was in the mob. I can't say who, what family, and he covers a lot of history. And he was really close with Merlino. Not really close, but he was close with some of these top Philly guys. And I met him a couple times down in South Philly, some social clubs that were off limits to outsiders. And unfortunately, he had a big falling out with Merlino. But Joe, Joey's cool as far as with the the sports and the content. But between what went down with him and a close friend of mine, I just like I just can't really say anything. I can't say anything. But
I'm trying to remember the one guy's name. He's on the Coach JB show. Hold on. Do you know Coach JB from Last Chance?
Yeah.
Show. It's really
actually, for the people that like mob history and saw The Irishman on Netflix from years ago about the real life movie about who killed Jimmy Hoffa with De Niro and Joe Pesci. So the mob boss, Russell Buffalino, that Joe Pesci played, he was my neighbor. He lived right. I could walk to his house from here for over 30 years.
I'm trying to find, because I want to give him a shout out, man. He does.
I know the JB guy, the guy, Last Chance U. I forget who. I don't know who I know the JB guy.
This guy has a mob show as well. He's interviewed like Sammy the Bull and stuff like that. I'm trying to remember his freaking name, dude.
There's a lot. Sammy the Bull is the biggest lying rat out there. Like, do you know like a quick story like about Sammy the Bull? So he ratted out John Gotti. He said John Gotti was.
As long as we're not in any danger, Chris, go ahead.
You're not in any danger. These guys don't do. They don't do that. But like, so Sammy the Bull, when he killed, it was like 18 or 19 people he killed, right? And when he became a rat, and he ratted out John Gotti, he tried to say, well, Gotti was setting him up, blah blah blah, which wasn't true. And this is how scummy the FBI is and was back then. So one of the murders that Sammy the Bull did was he killed a 16-year-old kid named Alan Kaiser. And it was supposed to be mistaken identity. He tries to say where he got in a fight with some guy early in the night at some bar. So him and his buddies went trying to hunt this guy down and find him. And they saw the guy and were going to shoot him. But this Alan Kaiser kid was friends with the guy and came running at the kid. He killed a 16-year-old kid. The kid was 16 years old. You don't do that. Sammy should have been killed on the spot for that. And when he became the star witness for the defense, the FBI kept that murder. They knew who it was. They didn't tell the prosecution about that murder because it would make Sammy look like even a worse witness. And they kept that. They kept the murder from this Alan Kaiser, this 16-year-old kid. They kept it from his family for several years. The FBI wouldn't tell the family until way after the trial was over. That's how scummy they are. Sammy the Bull thinks he's still in. He thinks he's still in the mob. He's out of his mind. He's crazy. He was selling shirts that said Bull 19 for 19 murders, but then he turns around and says he's a born again Christian.
Well,
and it's funny. There's a guy that does another. He used to do a mob show, and now he does wrestling stuff. Named Lee Cole. And Lee Cole, he's all about clicks and views, and he does a good wrestling show. And he's an older guy, and he knew where Sammy lives in Arizona now, and he knew where Sammy was living, and he went up and pulled up on Sammy, recording him with his phone, saying, "Why don't you talk about Alan Kaiser, Sammy?" And it was Sammy and his son. And they came walking to his car, and his son started beating the crap out of the guy, punching the guy, and all you heard the phone go flying. What the fuck? Well, yeah, I don't know. A lot of rats out there and stool pigeons.
Yeah, I don't want to get into it too much, but
yeah,
John Gotti, Sammy the Bull, that there's several movies about it. But Jeff Nadeau.
Best Gotti movie is from HBO. Gotti, the 1996 HBO Gotti movie with Armand Asante is the best one. But go ahead.
Yeah.
If anybody has any questions about this stuff, I could help. I could answer. Go ahead.
But Jeff Nadeau is the guy I wanted to give a shout out to. He's been on Coach JB. He does a mob podcast. Do you know who that is, Jeff Nadeau?
Yeah, listen, him and my buddy hate each other. My buddy, my buddy Jeff Canarsie and him, they hate each other. They hate each, and he's afraid of my buddy Jeff. So this Jeff, he tries to deny it, but supposedly this Jeff Nadeau, I guess he said something that Joey Merlino got mad at him about, allegedly. Okay, and there's a guy who a couple guys that dined out Nadeau and said there's a recording of him running into the police, hiding in his car with a gun. Nadeau doesn't like me because I'm friends with a guy he doesn't like, my other buddy Jeff. But Nadeau wouldn't say half the stuff he does if he was in front of our faces. Like he's Nadeau, you don't have the problem with me if he watches this. Your problem's with my buddy, so you should probably keep my name out of your mouth. What did that say?
All right, guys. I don't want to get into it too much.
Hold on. Yeah, great. Yeah, oh yeah. So there's a movie coming out about Greg Scarpa that Mark Wahlberg's playing in. I forget the name of the movie. But Mark Wahlberg. Yeah, Greg Scarpa, they call him the Grim Reaper. He's probably one of the most feared monsters of all time. And Greg Scarpa was so he had an FBI handler that came, and Greg Scarpa was a rat for like 30 years. And there's an FBI handler that worked for him oversaw him named Len DeVecchio. This Len DeVecchio, it was just like the Whitey Bulger thing, where Whitey Bulger had an FBI handler, Michael Connolly, where he was committing murders that while working for the FBI. And this Len DeVecchio almost went away for a long time about it. But then so I don't know what happened, if there's a technicality, but the case how it got overturned. But yeah, I know. Listen, I've been with this mob stuff for a long time, like as far as the history. And I met some of these guys. I know some of these street guys. Listen, I'm in a book. I told you, Mark, you remember that book I showed you? My name. Like
Yeah.
I'm in a book with my name was put in a book next to John Gotti's name. But
Yeah.
it was just my buddy that wrote a book that knows the Gotti family pretty well. That's all.
Yeah, because you were like in the neighborhood or something like that. Yeah.
No, it wasn't a neighborhood. It was just that was in Philadelphia. My buddy Jeff Canarsie wrote a book about his life and the people he knew while doing this show and who he met through this show. And I became good friends with him, and he's close with the Gotti family. He's like Angel Gotti, actually. John Gotti's daughter, Angel Gotti, is on YouTube all the time, actually, and she has a huge following. And just like through being friends with my buddy and knowing him, meeting up with him, he shared a couple stories when I met up with him in Philly, and he put it in the book. That's all.
All right, guys. Linebacker you and the Mafia. That'll be a good clip segment. But you guys, you guys. Well, supposedly Joe was in the Mafia. People said that for years. Or he had ties to the Mafia.
What if he a goddamn football coach? He's from Brooklyn. Of course, you're gonna have tie like no people.
Ray Grecar. I mean, dude, we could get into this stuff, man. Ray Grecar, Cindy Song. Holy crap! Two of the most mysterious disappearances ever in the history of our country are both from Central PA. Cindy Song, no idea what happened there, but I'm into that type of stuff, like missing persons cases, the paranormal stuff. Like, I love that stuff. Like, I follow that stuff. Like Cindy Song, like the map of her going missing that night, I've driven it. Like, I've literally driven it to be like, what, I've literally, like, I'm into that type of stuff. Ray Grecar, who knows? But all right, Chris.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming on.
No problem.
You guys, who knows when? Sometime soon, definitely. But yeah, we're gonna work on that recruiting stuff with Chris and Joe and Brett, and then we'll let you guys know. So you guys have a good night, and we will see you again soon. Thanks for commenting, like, share, subscribe. Thank you for the memberships, Joe, and have a good night, guys.
Have a good night.